And now we will be going into the European Parliament elections, especially examining the situation in Hungary. Is Viktor Orbán under pressure before the elections coming up? For that, we have a guest joining us right now.
Indeed, and here to discuss these developments is Dániel Bartha. I'm president of the Center for Euro-Atlantic Integration and Democracy. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning.
So now, firstly, I would love to ask, how are recent polls reflecting the public sentiment towards Viktor Orbán and his Fidesz party in the lead-up to the EU elections?
Well, what we can see is that a large portion of his voters remain loyal after the very deep crisis of the governing coalition back in March, April, related to child protection case, which led to the step down of the president and their frontrunner of the European Parliament elections as well. So they started from a low basis, and simultaneously a new opposition leader, a former Fidesz affiliate, emerged, Péter Magyar, on the horizon, which led basically a total redistribution of the political arena in Hungary. According to the recent polls, Magyar basically destroyed the oppositional arena. He gained around approximately 25% at this point in the polls. Meanwhile, Fidesz lost a bit, strengthened in the last couple of days, but still, compared to the previous periods, they will be probably weaker than before, but landslide changes are on the oppositional side.
Right, like I mentioned, we are seeing significant changes within the Hungarian politics. And of course, Orbán's party still remains largely loyal to him, as seen as one of the biggest marches in Hungary taking place. Now, my question will be on his opposition, Péter Magyar. A lot of people are seeing him as a change to Viktor Orbán's policy domestically. But some also say that when it comes to the broader European picture, as a breakaway kind of member of the Fidesz party, he actually stands very close to where Viktor Orbán lies. Can you help us break down the difference between the two candidates when it comes to domestic as well as foreign?
Well, it's really hard because he doesn't have an official program. He emerged in March, and it remained, obviously, for a good reason, a one-man show, his initiative. He focused on strengthening his movement based on his popularity, traveled around the country, and therefore his statements are not always totally coherent. What he always says that he cannot be. If he wants to win Fidesz voter, he cannot be totally hostile for them. He cannot say something totally different than the current government says. So he remains critical, but that's the criticism that what he say regarding the European Parliament or the European institution. That's the criticism that is coming from most of the liberal elite. So it's about efficiency, it's about double standards sometimes, not keeping its own regulations and rules, but otherwise he's very, very pro-European. And if he wants to keep his current voting basis, he has to pick important topics. That was very popular also among the current. For example, about the current voters of the Polish government. So he wants the country to introduce the EPO, the European Prosecution Office, also finalize the rule of law procedures against Hungary, and try to reintroduce the independence of the judiciary system. So what he promises is very much, at the end of the day, pro-European and fits meets the European values. But he remains critical when it comes to the efficiency of the European institutions, and that is quite a popular step.
And all of that now is closely connected to the fact that now Hungary needs the EU funds, and we see that now the Article 7 and now the problems that Hungary finds itself in when it comes to adherence to the rule of law is affecting that. Now, how significant are the EU funds that are currently withheld from Hungary, and what impact might it have on Orban's government?
Well, we are talking about approximately 20 billion euros, so that is significant, and it's very much missing from the central budget of Hungary. Therefore, gaining access to these EU funds is a crucial question if they want to keep the balance of the budget. And that has been long on the agenda. With the absence of that funding, Hungary had to seek investments from China, for example. Therefore, in the past 2 or 3 years, the biggest investors became the Chinese and the South Korean, while previously it was Germany, United States among the biggest investors. So basically, because of these procedures, because of the lack of EU funds, they had to make a lot of compromise. They had to start business countries with China, and I think partially some of the business with Russia is due to this fact as well.
Right, and going back to the political stance of Hungary when it comes to the European Parliament elections, like you just mentioned, Peter Megre is emerging as also somewhat of a popular figure, and meanwhile keeping his rhetoric vague. Do you think that this would be able to allow him to fragmentate the Fidesz party and have a significant change when it comes to Hungary's stance within the European Parliament? In other words, will he be able to change the political structure and the buildup of Hungarian government right now, and giving the more pro-European faction inside the country a bit more breathing room?
Obviously, he won't be able to do that since this is just the very first step at the European parliamentary elections, and we have to keep in mind that simultaneously in Hungary we have local elections as well. The very important positions will be distributed. When we have a closer look on that, we can already see that he came too late to the politics to be able to nominate mayoral and other candidates for these elections, which are obviously from a domestic policy perspective are much more important than the European parliamentary elections. However, the change he brought and the support he gained is unprecedented in the last 15 years, which basically provides sort of a hope that he will be able to unify his camp and position, and he can be finally a real challenger of the current government. Still, it will be very hard because he only been able to attract a small fraction of former Fidesz voters. Dominantly, he managed to attract opposition voters, former opposition voters, including some far right, according to the polls, but mainly those who were critical with the government. And so far, only a few percent support was coming from the current governing parties.
Now, I do know that you do not have a crystal ball, but I'm going to throw it out there. I'm giving the political climate currently. What do you foresee as the potential outcomes for Hungary in the upcoming EU elections?
Well, there are a number of crucial questions, especially for Fidesz, and I think the real stake for whole Europe, not just Hungary, is what's happening after the elections and whether the dominoes will fall or not. What I mean under this is that in a number of countries, if parties start to change their political family and their affiliation, other parties will follow. So we will see a lot of parties changing their affiliation, and then we already don't. We believe that Fidesz will join ECR, but we don't know where ECR will be, and we don't know what will be the reaction of those ECR members who wouldn't like to sit together in the European Parliament with Fidesz. For example, the Czech ODS, the governing party, or the Swedish Democrats, both indicated that they are not really happy about the developments that Fidesz potentially joining their party. Also, a question that was raised previously news that the European People's Party is inviting openly now Péter Magyar to join. He has potentially up to 5 or 6 seats at the next parliament, which is quite a substantive number. I think also in the European level that's a visible number. So the big question is there from a Fidesz perspective, that their proxy party, the Christian Democrats, are still sitting in the European People's Party. What will happen with them, whether they will have to leave? So I think, just to sum it up, we have so many questions in Central Europe, and not just on the right angle of the political field. Also, we have no idea where will the Slovak governing parties will end up. Currently, they are suspended in the Social Democrats, so they are non-affiliated. But the question is whether they will remain unaffiliated or they will join one political party family. So I think there will be a lot to follow and watch after the elections, potentially even more than now, and therefore it's really hard to forecast.
All right, like I mentioned, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. And of course, we are inching towards the European Parliament elections Super Sunday. So we'll keep our eyes peeled and give you guys more update. In the meanwhile, thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Dániel Bartha, President of the Center for Euro-Atlantic Integration and Democracy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.